burning alive on my left side. It was only... Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, my name is Ash Nikki, and I'm back with another video. So today I would like to give my shout out to Kayshali Cologne. That's my little sister, but she is a loyal supporter who watches all my videos and makes sure, she always watches my videos. And I love you for that, baby girl. You are the best. Everybody else will start getting shout outs soon. And if you'd like a post notification shout out, just leave a comment down below and I'll give you a shout out. So as promised, today's video is my postpartum video. And this is a very long, stressful video. So we'll get back. We'll get right into it. So as I was saying in the last video, I gave birth to my beautiful little baby boy, and I felt amazing after that. My cousin Shy and my wifey Gigi came to come see my baby. They were the first ones to come see the baby, and it was a good day. I was going with a lot of back pain because if you didn't watch my last video, go watch it. Go watch my first two videos. My first video is my pregnancy, and my second video is my labor and delivery video. So go watch those two videos. This is my postpartum video. But as I said in the other video, they stuck me twice with epidural, which did not ever work at all. So my back was in a lot of pain. I was able to walk, but it wasn't like my normal walk. And back there hurted because he stuck his finger in my booty, like I stated in the last video. So everything was fine. My fiance and my mom were trying to figure out who's gonna stay with me that night, because only one person can stay with you in the night. And I chose, and they came to agreement that Adam would stay with me through the night, because that's his baby. So let's have our first night as parents together. Girl, when I tell you, our first night of being parents was the worst night of our lives. This little boy did not shut up all night. He cried all night long. Literally all night long. And us being new parents, I guess I've taken care of so many kids. All my brothers and sisters, I've taken care of cousins, blah, blah, blah. But it's different when you're taking care of a child and you know their cries and you know what they want, than to have a newborn baby who you don't know what the baby wants. You try changing the diaper, you try giving him some milk, you tried cuddling him, you tried, doing all that, and he just kept crying and crying and crying. He was driving us insane. We did not sleep at all that night. So the next morning, the nurse comes in to come check on me, which is another good thing, because my mom always told me that when, she gave birth, none of the nurses let her sleep ever. But in my case, they didn't let me sleep, but they left me alone all night, which was annoying because I really needed the help. But nobody decided to come. So the nurse comes in the morning and she introduces herself, and I tell her, she's like, oh my God, the baby's crying. And I was like, yeah, he's been crying all night. He doesn't want to sleep. So she was an angel of a nurse. I loved her so much. She was like, you know what? I'm gonna shut him up. I'm gonna take him with me for a good hour or two so you guys can get your little rest, and then I'll bring him back. So she definitely did. She took him. We got a little rest, and then she brought him back. And then he was perfectly fine. He woke up crying a little later, but he let us sleep or whatever. So then the day goes by. So around like 4 to 6, I can't remember if it was 4, 5, or 6 p.m. But one of those times, I was sleeping, and I wake up to the nurse literally like shaking me out my sleep. Like, usually nurses, they come in, they're like, hello, Miss, whatever your last name is. In my case is Perez. So they're like, hello, Miss Perez. And that's how they talk to you when you're sleeping, right? Well, no, she like shook me. So, I woke up like, what the hell? So she's breathing super hard. She's like, oh my God. She's like, okay, you're okay. And I was like, what? So apparently she ended up checking my temperature, and because she was one of the vital check nurse, so she checked your vitals. So the first thing she did was, you know, she checked my forehead to see my temperature, and my temperature was at 102. That was in the beginning. My temperature was at 102, and she said that I was shivering, that I was shaking, like if I was, you know, like, she said that she thought I was going into sepsis, or that I was having a seizure, like she, you know, that I was shaking or whatever. And I realized that I was super, 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 super cold. Like after she said that, I was like, oh my God, I'm freezing. So she's like, your temperature's super high. You just had a baby. You're not supposed to be, you know, having a super high temperature. I'm going to have to tell my doctor. I'm going to have to tell the doctor, and we'll be right back. So they tell the doctor. The doctor comes in. He checks my temperature, and it's at 103 now. So he's like, okay, let's give her Tylenol to lower down her, you know, her fever or whatever, and let's see how that goes. So they gave me Tylenol. My fever went down, and for the rest of the night, like, I was okay, but my fever kept fluctuating. Like it would come up and then it would go down, and come up and then go down. But it was, you know, they were able to manage it with the Tylenol. So then it was time for my mom to come in, because my mom and Alan switched off. So it was time for my mom to come in, and she comes in and she's with me for that night. So she's with me with the baby or whatever, and we're perfectly fine. That day I really don't remember what happened, but I know that my fever went down again, or went up again. And you know, the doctors, they're like trying to figure out why I keep going back down, and you know, why I keep going back down and then coming back up, and then coming back down and coming back up and then coming back down. So they give me my Tylenol again, and they order me to go get some blood work. So I get stuck up. Girl, when I tell you I got stuck up probably more than 100 times, I am dead serious. Like, I got stuck up so many times. So they, you know, they start doing the blood work. They start, you know, doing labs. And then labs come back negative. Nothing's wrong with me. I mean, nothing that they are testing for is wrong with me. And they just, you know, keep chalking it up as a little cold. But, you know, I'm still not supposed to have a cold after giving birth. I don't know why, but I'm not supposed to have a cold after giving birth. So, I remember that they had given me a Tylenol. All right, guys, I'm back. My fiance woke up out of sleep and kind of panicked because I wasn't there. But okay, back into the video. So all I don't remember how many days after I gave birth this was, but I remember that I would know that my fever's coming in because I would suddenly get super cold to the point where I would need like 20 blankets on top of me. And then in like 30 minutes, my fever would go away and I would get super hot to the point where I was sweating. And I'm not the kind of person that sweats a lot, but I was sweating, like I was dripping sweat everywhere. So that's how I knew that my fever was coming up. So I started to get cold out of nowhere, and then the doctors come and they do my vitals and they check. I was at 106. Yeah, my temperature was 106. So right then and there, the doctor, you know, like, the doctor was like, oh my God, like, we have to give you a Tylenol, and I have to go tell my the real doctor or whatever. So they gave me a Tylenol, and they wait 30 minutes before checking my vitals again. So they give me my Tylenol. The doctors come in and they're like, how are you feeling? Like, explain to us what it is that you're feeling. Like, if it does anything hurt, blah, blah, blah. And I'm explaining to them, and I'm just getting cold out of nowhere and getting super hot out of nowhere, and that's it. Like, that's how I know my fever's here. So then 30 minutes go by, and they come and they check me again, because, you know, the Tylenol takes 30 minutes to, you know, digest into the system and start working. So 30 minutes go by, and they check me again. My temperature was at 104. I'm lying. My temperature was at 104 at first, before they gave me the Tylenol. Once they gave me the Tylenol, my temperature went up to 106. So that's when everybody started panicking, and they started, you know, scrambling everywhere and calling all types of doctors. They started calling all types of doctors or whatever. All I know is that in a blink of an eye, my room looked like it was Grey's Anatomy. I don't know if you guys watch Grey's Anatomy, but seeing, you know, like there were so many doctors. There was neurologists there. The anesthesiologists were there. Like there was so many people in there. The room was full of people, and all they were trying to do was trying to figure out what was wrong with me. So the first thing that they thought I had was meningitis. So if you guys don't know what meningitis is, I suggest you guys look it up because I do not want to talk about it. Like, this experience just bothers me. So they thought I had meningitis. So them thinking I had meningitis, I had to get a lot of blood work done, and they had to take my son away from me for the night. Because, you know, if you have meningitis, I can't give it to the baby. So I had to be without my baby for the night. And that broke me into pieces. When I tell you that broke me into pieces, because yes, my son cried a lot. Yes, I was a new mom that didn't know what she was doing at the moment. But my baby was everything to me. And the fact that they had to take my baby away from me killed me inside. Like, I was crying my eyes out. So then they, the next day, they still had the baby. They didn't give me the baby back. They, the neurologist came to tell me that they had to do a lumbar puncture. If you guys don't know what a lumbar puncture is, the needle is way longer than the epidural needle. So the epidural needle is about like this long. So a lumbar puncture is like this long. And it goes straight into your spine, farther than what the epidural does, because they have to get your brain juices to test them to see if you have meningitis. And I'm like, you know, in my head, I'm like, okay, I got the experience with the epidural. The epidural didn't hurt that much, so this shouldn't hurt that much, right? So they start preparing me for the lumbar puncture. And this is where I might get emotional. I'm trying not to get emotional, but this is where I might get emotional. So they tell my mom that she has to get out the room again because it's a sterile procedure. So, you know, only the doctors and 2 nurses could be in there. So in total it was 5 of us. So the one nurse who was the most, like, there was 2 nurses, so both of them were in there, but the one that was like God sent, like she was heaven sent, she was an amazing nurse. She stood with me. Her shift was over because, you know, they switched shifts at 7 a.m. You know, the one at night leads. So she was my night nurse, and she was the best nurse I've ever received. Like, I thank her a lot because she helped me get through a lot. So she actually stood after her shift just to be with me and hold my hand and hug me. So she stood. So they had me laid down, you know, scrunched up like this on my back, poking up my spine, and I'm holding her hand, and I just remember feeling all this, like, it was like a flash of heat, which he said is supposed to happen. Like, you're just supposed to get like a flash of heat. So, you know, I remember feeling the flash of heat, and I start crying because, you know, it starts hurting. Like, my back started hurting a lot. Mind you, I already got 2 punctures from the epidural, so getting the epidural punctures, and then the lumbar puncture was right in between those. So the epidural, the first one was down here and the second one was up here, and then the lumbar puncture was right in the middle. So, you know, I start crying because it hurts. My back already hurts from the epidural, you know, the epidural punctures. So I start crying, and I'm holding her hand and I'm squeezing her hand, and then out of nowhere I remember feeling this burning sensation. Like, it was completely different from the hot flash that I received when they first, you know, went through. When I tell you, it felt like I was burning alive on my left side. It was only my left side. So I remember my whole entire left side feeling like it was on fire. And when I tell you that I started screaming, I am on fire, like, I literally kept screaming that phrase over and over and over and over and over and over again. I kept screaming, I'm on fire, I'm on fire, I'm on fire. I feel like I'm on fire. So once, you know, he realized that I kept saying it over and over again, because I guess he thought that I kept saying it about feeling the hot flash, but like I kept screaming and crying. Like it was the worst experience of my damn life. It was the worst experience of my life. So he went and quickly took out the needle and then told me he had to redo it again. So now, instead of 3 punctures, now I'm getting 4 punctures on my back. So it turns out he actually, you know, how the spine has the little hairs or whatever, I don't know what they're called, but the little strands that the spine has, right? The little hairs. Well, it turns out that instead of going straight through my back to the spine, he went and he tilted to the left. So he touched one of my little hairs, which could have left me paralyzed for life. Like if I would have moved a little bit, or if he would have moved a little bit more, I would have been paralyzed for the rest of my life. So he goes ahead and he takes it out and he goes again. He does it again. And this time I get the hot flash, but I don't feel like I'm burning. But I'm still crying so bad because even though he did it for the second time, I still felt this whole side hot. Like I had burnt. So, you know, he finishes up and I'm still crying. And then he finishes up. They, you know, get everything away. They leave. So my mom comes in and I remember my back was facing the door. And there was a big patch of blood right where I was laying from, you know, my back. So I remember my back was faced towards the door. So my mom comes in and she hugs me or whatever. And then when she looks at me, she sees that I'm crying. Like that, at that point I was crying silently because I didn't want my mom to hear me crying like that. So at that point I was crying silently. So she sees that I'm crying. So she holds me and she's like, "You're okay, you're okay, you're okay." And she was like, I was like, I felt like I was burning. And she's like, "What do you mean you felt like you was burning?" And I was like, "I felt like I was burning." So, and then I told her I felt like I was burning on my left side, and I still feel super hot on my left side. So my mom goes ahead and she touches my leg, and my leg is super, super hot. And then she touches my other leg, and this leg is normal temperature. So she, like, you know, then and there she knew that I wasn't, you know, just saying that that's how I felt, and it really, like, didn't happen. Because, you know, you can say you feel some things, and it's like, you know, it's not really what happened. So right then and there she knew that that's what happened. So she started crying with me, and I just started crying, and I was like, "I miss my baby," or whatever. And at that point, my mom thought she was gonna lose me, because after that they did the test for that, and that came back negative as well. So then they drew another lab. So another doctor from like a whole nother place came in, and she sat down and she talked to me and my mom, and she said, "You know, we are not understanding why you keep getting these fevers. Why do they keep fluctuating from high to low and then low to high?" So she was like, "We're gonna do this lab, and we're gonna see if there's something wrong internally with your body. And if that lab comes back positive, we're gonna have to put you in the ICU." So, you know, I was like, okay, whatever. They take that lab, and lo and behold, the test came back positive. So something was internally wrong with me. They just couldn't pick up what it was. So she goes ahead and she tells my mom that they're gonna have to take me to ICU and, you know, keep me up there. So I remember they never ended up taking me to the ICU. I don't remember why, but they never did. But, you know, that was on the plans, and they just kept giving me every lab, every test, everything. They gave me so many CAT scans. They gave me MRIs. They gave me the EKGs. They gave all kinds of damn tests, and everything came back negative. Nothing came back positive besides the fact that there was something wrong with me internally. Like something was wrong, but they just couldn't figure out what it was. So then they decided to do her, because I also have asthma, and I was having a very bad short breath. Like I was very short of breath. So they decided to go ahead and go give me an x-ray for my lungs and see how my lungs were. And apparently something was in my lungs that looked like pneumonia, but it wasn't pneumonia. And they didn't know what it was. They couldn't, like, still to this day, they still don't know what happened to me. And we are in April, and I gave birth in January. They still don't know what happened to me. They still don't know why something came up in the x-rays as pneumonia, but it wasn't pneumonia. So I stood in the hospital. And then, to top it off too, my blood, I started getting high blood pressure. So I had to be on high blood pressure pills. My white blood count, my red blood cell count, whatever, they were low, so I had to take iron pills. Like, it was just super horrible. I was in the hospital for a whole week. And then like, I was dying for them to send me home, because I just wanted to go home with my son and be with my son at home, which I thank God they did not take the baby away from me, because, you know, usually they'd be like, okay, the baby can't stay here no more, so it's time for you to go. But they actually let me stay with the baby in the hospital. I stood on the maternity floor the whole entire time. So they just did every kind of test possible. They did ultrasounds on my legs. Like, they just did all types of things. Like, it was ridiculous, and they still could not find what was wrong with me. Like, they stabbed me up so many times that they couldn't find anywhere else to poke me up anymore. Like, they couldn't find other veins. They couldn't find nothing, because they had, you know, they had done so many times that it was just like, they had called the anesthesiologist. They had called every kind of doctor that specializes in, you know, taking out blood, and most of them couldn't get no blood from me, because they just couldn't find a viable vein to do it. So then after that, they finally, and my back was killing me. I could not walk. It came to a point where I could not walk to pick up my son. I couldn't, because the bassinet, I'm 4'11", so the bassinet that they had was pretty high, and I could not bend, because in order for me to pick him up, I had to go like this, like stand on my tippy toes and go like this to pick him up. Well, I couldn't do that, so it got to the point where my mom had to be the one that took care of my son the whole entire time, because I couldn't take care of my son. I couldn't walk. I couldn't go to the bathroom alone. I couldn't take a shower. I couldn't do nothing alone. And then they decided to give me an oxy to relieve my back pain, because they tried giving me everything and nothing would work. Because remember, everything that they were giving me were for people that only got like one puncture in their back, but I had 4. So, you know, nothing that they were giving me was working, and I did not want to take a perk. So they was like, you know, oxy is like a perk, but it's not a perk. You can take the oxy or whatever. So they gave me the oxy, and when I tell you, it was the best decision of my life, because once they gave me that, I started feeling so much better. I was able to walk. I was able to pick up my son. I was able to go to the bathroom. I was able to take a shower by my damn self. So then I was there for a whole week, and they finally come and they tell me, like, I was begging them to let me go home, because I was at the point, because after a while I went a whole 48 hours without getting a fever, which was what they were aiming for, was to see me 48 hours without fever. So then after that happened, that's when my high blood pressure came in, and more complications, and I was just like, one thing ends and then another starts. Like, they just want to keep me here at this point. I'm gonna have to stay here for the rest of my life. So then they finally told me I could go home, and I was the happiest that I could ever be. So then I get ready, and, you know, I go home. So all in all, my postpartum experience was the worst experience of them all, because still to this day they don't know what happened to me. And let's talk about that real quick. So honestly, me speaking, and, you know, I spoke with my mom and I spoke with my fiance. I gave birth in January 2020. We are now in April 2020. I believe that I had the coronavirus. That's what I call it, the Rona. So I believe that I had it because, you know, when I gave birth, the outbreak was only in China, and, you know, yes, it was here, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a vast majority of us. It was like a couple of little cases here and there. There wasn't really much any cases, but every symptom that I had in the hospital correlates with the symptoms that come with the virus. You know, the fluctuation in fever, the fact that they thought I had pneumonia, something showed up in my lungs, but they couldn't figure out what it is. If you look up, you know, what happens to the lungs with the coronavirus, it says that there is it pops up as if it was pneumonia or something like pneumonia, but it's not. It's the coronavirus. And the fact that the doctors did not know what was wrong with me, and they gave me every single test in the world, and they couldn't find what was wrong with me. Mind you, still to this day, we don't really have much access to tests for that virus yet. So imagine in January, they didn't know what the hell, you know, it was. So I honestly feel like I did have it because for one, I was very short of breath all the time. So they always had me on the, what'd you call that? I forgot what you call that. The thingy for asthmatics to breathe. I forgot what it's called. But yeah, they had me on that the whole entire time. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't bend down and pick myself up without being short of breath and running to get the asthma pump. Like, it was horrible. So I honestly think that I did have it, but you know, who knows? I could have just been sick, and they still don't know. But the fact that the doctors don't know what was wrong with me, and it was so, you know, long ago, like now they have more resources to figure it out, but back then they didn't. So, you know, it raised the question, did I have it? Could I have had it? But at the end of the day, nobody knows. I still protect myself to this day because I know that once you have it, you can't get it again. But I still protect myself just in case, because I don't know if I did. But honestly, in my heart, I do believe that I did, but I don't know. So, then postpartum, after that, like after I got home, it became better. I was able to, you know, adjust back to life as normal. It did take me a couple days to, you know, get strength on my back and get strength to walk around and do what I had to do. But overall, here I am 3 months later, and I'm perfectly fine. So this will be the end of this video. As promised, here goes your your postpartum video. Stay tuned for my next video. My next video will be out on Thursday. I'm not sure what I will be filming, so I'm not even going to give you a heads up. But my next video will be on Thursday. And yeah, I hope you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you guys have similar stories, or people that you know have similar stories, you know, share them below, or have those people share them below. Let me know your experiences with, you know, labor and delivery and after being in the hospital. Let me know if you guys like this video, and like, comment, share, subscribe. And as I always say, peace out.